Hey guys, we're going to be talking about the hardest ways to evolve Pokemon through all 7 generations. First, we're going to start with the 7th generation Pokemon, Salandit. He's found in the Fire Trial, and Salazzle, obviously the evolved form, spoiler alert, is the Pokemon that's in the Fire Trial, one of the main Pokemon. And the reason this Pokemon is very hard to evolve is because the only way to evolve it is if it's a level 33 female. And the hardest part is 87.5% of the time the encounter rate it's a male, and only 12.5% of the time it's a female, which makes this a very hard Pokemon to evolve, but it's definitely worth it. Melodic is the next Pokemon we're going to be talking about. The way that you get Melodic is first you have to catch Feebas, which is very hard, but that's for another video. And in the 3rd and 4th gen, the way you get a Melodic is through maxing out the beauty stat of a Feebas. It gets easier in the 5th gen, where all you need is the Prism Scale and to trade the Pokemon over. But in the 3rd and 4th gen, specifically the 3rd gen, it's very hard because the way you do it is through the Berry Master's wife, surfing across from Maulville City, and you have to talk to her after you beat the Elite Four, and you have to tell her challenge contest through a couple questions that she asks you. And if you have the Feebas in your team while you say this, you can get a Palm Tree Berry, which you will plant outside in the mud or anywhere where there's mud, where you can plant any of these berries. And once you get 5 after a couple days, so it's actually going to take a little while, you can take these berries, take them to the berry blend, and get the Pokeblock. And this isn't that hard, but you have to match it up when it spins around. And once you get the Pokeblock, you have to feed it to the Feebas until he has a maxed out 170 beauty stat, and then level it up, and you would get a Melodic. But although this is pretty difficult, it's definitely worth it. The next Pokemon we're going to be talking about is Tyrogue. When you get a Tyrogue, you can evolve it into one of 3 Pokemon: Hitmontop, Hitmonlee, and Hitmonchan. If you want a Hitmontop, you would need the attack and defense to be equal at level 20. If you would want a Hitmonlee, you would want more attack than defense. And if you want a Hitmonchan, you would want more defense than attack. And this is all at level 20. The reason this is hard is because, first of all, Hitmontop, it's pretty hard to get an exact equal stat. Even though Tyrogue does have completely equal stats to begin with, it's hard to maintain that because depending on natures, this does affect the Pokemon. For a Hitmonlee, it's a little easier because you could just feed it more proteins, but this may affect later on EV training. And for the Hitmonchan, you would want more defense, and you can use irons. But like I said, Hitmonchan is the hardest. Hitmontop, is the hardest one to get because it has to be exactly the same. The next hard evolution is Friendship Evolution in Generation 7. I personally went through this when I caught a Pikachu, and I wanted an Alolan Raichu eventually because I like the typing. And I actually waited till 33 when my Pichu finally evolved into a Pikachu. And the hard part is, they added a lot of things like brushing the Pokemon, petting the Pokemon, and although that helps, having the Pokemon in the front party helps, not allowing the Pokemon to faint, feeding it items, and even holding Soothe Bell, it still took me all the way from level 3 to 33 to evolve into the Pokemon. So, Friendship is very hard in Generation 7. Now, the next one also pertains to Friendship, and that is Happiness for Umbreon at nighttime and for Espeon at daytime, if you want to evolve an Eevee into one of those 2 Pokemon. The reason this is hard is because, first of all, in the 3rd generation, Friendship wasn't as hard as it is in 7th generation, but the problem was if you had a dead battery in your Ruby or Sapphire game, you couldn't go through the day and nighttime cycle. I don't even think the nighttime cycle would happen, and for this reason, it would be very difficult, and it would be sporadic on what Pokemon you would get if you were trying to get a specific one with the right nature and the EVs. In Generation 7, as I spoke about earlier, it's very difficult to evolve, and therefore you probably wouldn't even be picking which one you wanted. And yeah, like I said, the Happiness is very hard in Generation 7. The last one also pertains to Happiness, and that is Sylveon. Sylveon, you need a 2-heart affection and know a fairy move on Eevee, and then evolve it through Happiness. Now, this is a lot of culminating factors that makes this very difficult because, first of all, it's Happiness, and like I said, in Generation 7, this is extremely hard. And on top of that, the only 2 fairy moves that Eevee learns are Baby Doll Eyes at level 9 or Charm at 29. And the reason this is hard is because nobody wants to train an Eevee throughout the game, and with Happiness being so hard and taking so long to go to, you don't want to train the Eevee throughout the game, because it's actually going to be a liability, as it's a non-contributing Pokemon and a team member of your party. Eevee basically does nothing. You usually just get it to evolve into a better evolution, and in this case it wouldn't help you at all. Eevee really, nobody trains just in Eevee, and you would want the Sylveon, and a lot of people would become discouraged and not train the Eevee, and that would stop you from getting a good Pokemon. Alright, thank you guys for watching.